Hello students, this is Dr. Jayashree B dealing with your textbook, The Picture of Dorian Gray, 5th semester, Optional English, Mangalore University, Optional English. So as you have been studying in the previous slides, Dorian's sins keep multiplying. He becomes aware of the irreversible nature of his crimes, he has come too far in his path of crimes, and also the degeneration of his soul he is aware about. He feels hopeless and curious about the picture. See, this picture is a constant reminder of his sins. Sometimes he will be fascinated by it, sometimes he will be curious, sometimes he will feel terribly guilty about his soul. At times he will sit in front of the picture in deep anguish. Sometimes in his jovial moments he will feel very proud that his youth has remained and the picture is his actual reality. But he tries to drown all his fear and guilt in sensual pleasures. What happens? No? He gets debased every single day, and Basil Hallward, his friend, tries to advise him. As you have already studied, before going to Paris, Basil arrives at Dorian's house and tells Dorian, you should reform yourself. I keep hearing a lot of rumors about you. At that time, Dorian becomes enraged and tells him, you want to know the status of my soul? Come upstairs. So there in the schoolroom, as you know, he had hidden his portrait. So Basil is shocked to know the present condition of the soul of Dorian. Actually, there was a story called the model. So in that story, what happens? No? The same boy who was a model for Christ later in his life becomes a model for Judas Iscariot. So Dorian's story also is similar to this. Anyway, so you will know the skill of Oscar Wilde as a wonderful storyteller, keeping the suspense, redemption, anxiety. It is not less than a thriller at this juncture. Then the novel makes us think about the deeper aspects of lives. All of us are seekers of truth, about the meanings of life, why we act in a particular manner in a particular situations. It will make us very much philosophical also. When we understand life, we will understand literature. Similarly, an understanding of literature will help us to understand life itself. Now, chapter 16. So, as you know, Dorian Gray is in a reflective mode. See, after killing Basil, he was not in a position to enjoy the party. Normally, he went there exquisitely dressed, as desirable by women as ever. But that day, he was not able to eat anything, and he swoons actually. He felt so dizzy afterwards. Then after he looks at he happens to look at James Wayne through a window, and he becomes so shocked. From here onwards, his conscience keeps on pricking him. Then in order to drown his sorrow or guilt or anguish, whatever, he should search for some way, right? So he goes to the opium dens. So here also he remembers Lord Henry's words. When he was a boy, Lord Henry had told to cure the soul by the senses and senses by means of the soul. Actually, Dorian had all along been successful he had sought pleasure and he had got it also. But as of now, his pleasure, any of the pleasures do not cure his soul. So what he does, he doesn't have any other way than following pleasure, seeking pleasure. He goes to the opium den, which he frequently visits. And when he was about to come, a woman calls him, "There goes the devil's bargain," and he becomes very angry. "Don't call me that." Then immediately she says, "Oh, Prince Charming, is that what you want to be called?" She yelled after him. So from here onwards, Dorian becomes miserable, very honestly. From the moment he had killed Basil, this prick of conscience is there. But later, with the arrival of James Wayne, he becomes even more, tense inside. Dorian's nemesis begins with the appearance of James Wayne in the novel. See, when this woman tells, suddenly there was a sailor, sitting there. He gets up and catches hold of Dorian. Dorian struggles and asks what he wanted. "What have I done?" Then he says, "You wrecked the life of Sybil Wayne," was the answer, and Sybil Wayne was my sister. See, James Wayne didn't know anything about Dorian. As you know, Sybil Wayne didn't even know his name. Only Prince Charming was the name which she and her mother knew. So both of them were dead. So he didn't have any clue about the identity of Dorian. Then Dorian is very clever, okay. Finally he manages to escape. So what he does now, he drags James Wayne to street light and tells, "See, what was the age of your sister? What was the age of her suitor?" So when he it is 18 years. So Dorian retains the face of a young boy. Then James Wayne becomes upset and seeks his forgiveness. At that time, there was this woman, the wild woman. She tells, she asks James Wayne, "Why did you leave him? Why didn't you kill him?" Then he says, "It is the face of a boy." Then she says, "They say he has sold himself to the devil for a pretty face." I have met him 18 years before, and from that time he remains the same. He has the same beauty, whereas I have changed. Dorian has made me what I am, meaning he is responsible for her fall. Actually, there are many references to people who have been destroyed because of Dorian. Say, in the opium den, there is a boy called Adrian, golden color hair and all. So Dorian feels pity. "You are here?" Then he says, "Yes, where will I go? No one is speaking to me." Then there is this woman who hates Dorian, like that. Then Alan Campbell and numerous women who had their characters tarnished because of their association with Dorian. Young boys even, due to homosexuality perhaps, drugs, opium. So all in all, these are the tragic elements in the novel. Tragedy experienced by other people due to Dorian, and now Dorian himself as a tragic hero. Yes, chapter 18. So anyway, Dorian has to maintain his celebrity status, like he will remain and act cool. So he goes to the party. Pretty Duchess of Monmouth, lady, so he goes to another party. So there was this Lady Marlborough. While taking a stroll in the garden, Sir Geoffrey, the Duchess brother, shot a man accidentally, thinking it to be a pheasant. See, Dorian feels safe for a moment, but as you know, James Wayne had been told by the woman that Dorian, though he looks young, he is the same person. So this James Wayne hunts him. Then in the party also, Dorian is not his regular self. So he goes upstairs to relax. But he looks at the face of James Wayne through the window pane, and he swoons. Uh, so from this moment onwards, Dorian is afraid even to leave his house. Dorian slowly wishes to change. So he decides to save the country girl Hetty from his own charm. So now, yeah, uh, he there was a girl called Hetty who was in love with Dorian. So surprisingly, Dorian decides not to harm her. Like, he doesn't want to physically, spoil her in a way, and tells this Lord Henry, see, she is like a Perdita. It's a character in Shakespeare's play. Okay, now. And one more important thing happens by now. See, as you know, Dorian was in a party. Like he was walking along with this Duchess of Monmouth. So while walking, this Geoffrey, the Duchess's brother, was about to kill birds. It was pastime at that time. So at that time there was a hare. Then Dorian says, don't kill it, like, because the rabbit had particularly a charming grace, but accidentally, this Sir Geoffrey kills a person hiding in the bush. He didn't know that there was a person, and the person turns out to be James Wayne. So that and there is one more event here. That day also, Dorian was very much miserable inside. So he tells the servant, so suppose the dead person has any, dependent and all, let me compensate. Like, he is ready to write a check. So you can see that Dorian is slightly trying to become good. But at that time the servant says, no, actually the caretaker says, no, he doesn't seem to have any relatives. He seems to be a sailor. Immediately Dorian becomes curious. I mean, he knows that he is being chased by this one, no? So he goes there and looks at the face of James Wayne, and he is very happy. He feels as though a weight has lifted from his chest. There were tears in his eyes. So this is a very paradoxical event in the drama. Okay, Dorian himself had been responsible for the death of many people, Sybil Wayne, Basil, Alan Campbell, numerous other people, directly or indirectly. When it is the question of his life, he is very scared and very paradoxical, very real also. This is Oscar Wilde's skill. Yeah, we have already discussed this. There was this young girl, Hetty, village girl. She didn't know anything about Dorian. Dorian had told her that he is a poor person, and she had believed him. She was dressed in cotton dresses. So her innocence, Dorian liked very much, and he had decided to save her. Then the Lord Henry immediately says, oh, this is one of your vanities. You feel you are doing a good thing and all. So actually it will not help her, because by loving you, after loving you, she will not be happy with anybody of her class. Probably she might have committed suicide by now. So he feels very upset. So don't I have any grain of goodness? Maybe this is what he is saying. Next one. Then while speaking, Lord Henry casually makes this comment: what does profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Actually, Lord Henry had heard this statement from a street preacher, not very priestly like a person, but a shrill voiced speaker, but the sentence had a lot of depth and dramatic intensity. So Dorian becomes shocked, because he knows the torture of the suffering soul, right? Then the Lord Henry asks Dorian about the secret of his youth and beauty. He asks Dorian, Dorian, you are the same. I am only 10 years older to you, and still, I have become withered and wrinkled, but you retain the same. Your life itself is a work of art. I am very happy that you have not done anything with your life, such as carving, a sculpture, or painting, but your life itself is a work of art. Then Dorian says, I am not the same Harry. These are lines laden with the meaning, but Lord Henry doesn't really realize it. Next, Dorian feels regret about his life. See, for example, there was a woman who was madly worshipping him, so she had written, see, your beauty rewrites history, like that. So he feels very unhappy about his own beauty. It was his beauty that had ruined him, his beauty and the youth that he had prayed for. Once upon a time, when he was a boy, he had prayed for youth. But because of his youth, many people got attracted to him. He committed a lot of crimes, but he was not caught. So he regrets the sins committed by him, crimes even, regrets killing Basil, ponders deeply about beginning a new life. See, as he mentions Hetty to Lord Henry. See, you remember Sybil Vane, no? So this girl reminded me of Sybil Vane, all this. Anyway, Dorian, in his new determination and hope, examines the picture. He has some hope of regeneration even now. So he goes and looks at that picture, thinking that it might have changed by his one act of goodness of saving Hetty, the village girl. But surprisingly, the face had even more sinister and wicked look, and this. Hands were dripping with hands. The stain on the hands seemed to be even darker. Even on the feet there was some dripping of blood. Probably it is with reference to James Vane's death, or probably it may be regarding Hetty also. It is not suggested in the whether Hetty's dead is not mentioned. On one occasion Dorian says that he saw her face. After rejecting her, he saw her face on the window like a jasmine. Anyway, maybe it is not about her death. No change in the picture, looks even more sinister and evil. So what he feels, he wants to start a new life. So he thinks, see, the picture is the only evidence against him. Like he feels that one fine day somebody will look at his picture and realize that it is a mirror of his soul. I mean, it is a proof of all his criminal acts. So he thinks, I will stab this picture, this portrait which has a soul of its own. I will kill it, destroying the picture as it is the only evidence against him. So he stabs the picture, but in the process he kills himself. So there was a groan around the house, and all the servants get shocked. So there were two gentlemen going in the street, but when they realize it is Dorian's house, even they leave it, because they look at the house with a sneer. Anyway, they call a policeman, and when they come and open the door of the house, they see that there was a splendid photograph, portrait on the wall, and an ugly, withered old man was lying on the floor. After some time, they realized that it is Dorian. That too, after looking at his fingers, finger rings were there. No? So this is all about the picture of Dorian Gray. How a picture could change a man's life. How being vain can change human beings' lives, isn't it? So dear students, with this the picture of Gray novel story is over. In the next slides we will discuss the major themes. All the best.